What if I told you Prince Harry never planned to walk away from Meghan Markle until one private moment shattered everything? That's not just a dramatic question. It's the chilling truth behind a royal unraveling no one saw coming. Because while the world was distracted by royal gowns, Archewell rebranding, and glossy Netflix deals, Prince Harry was quietly preparing for war. And this time, it wasn't the press he was battling. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It was the woman he once abandoned an entire kingdom to love. Yes, that woman, the Duchess of Sussex, the media icon, the mother of his children, his soulmate, or so he thought. But then, something happened. A whisper in the hallway, a laptop left unlocked, a call overheard in the middle of the night. Something so deeply personal, so disturbingly cold, it forced Harry to question everything he thought he knew about his wife. So here's the real question. What did Meghan Markle do that made Harry finally say, enough? Because this wasn't a simple argument over headlines or a couple spat about paparazzi. This was betrayal, on a scale that rocked not only their marriage, but the very foundation of the global brand they built. And it all started with silence. For days, something had been off. Harry had become quieter. His usual routines were interrupted. The staff at their Montecito mansion, used to chaos, yes, but also used to charisma, started whispering in the halls. Not gossiping, whispering, like they were afraid something sacred had broken. Where was Meghan? Why was Harry walking the grounds alone, looking as if he hadn't slept? And why was the royal security team told to stand down that morning, only to be redeployed just hours later? A storm was forming. But not one of thunder or rain. This was personal, intimate, strategic. Something had fractured, and only one person knew why. Let's rewind. Just a few weeks ago, things looked manageable. Not perfect, but manageable. Yes, Archewell was bleeding money. Yes, the Spotify exit stung. Yes, the whispers about Harry's return to the UK were growing louder. But the couple had been through worse. Haven't they always weathered the media's storms together? The Sussexes had always been their own brand of drama-fueled, PR-polished unity. And yet, there was something different now. Something unspoken. Like Harry was pulling away, inch by inch, from a narrative he no longer believed. Have you ever watched someone sit across from their partner and realize they don't know them anymore? That was Harry. He wasn't angry. Not yet. He was unsettled and deeply confused because he'd begun to notice the little things. The quick phone lock when he entered the room. The secret Zoom calls at odd hours. The LA trips Meghan now took alone, under the guise of brand meetings. And then came the look. You know the one. That glance you give someone when you've already emotionally left the relationship, but haven't physically walked out yet. That's what he saw in Meghan's eyes. A flicker of distance. Cold, calculated, terrifying distance. And that's when he started digging. You see, when trust begins to erode, every action takes on new meaning. That smile? It's now suspicious. That text message? Suddenly feels like a secret. That locked drawer in the office suddenly must contain something explosive. Harry, raised under the shadow of 1,000 cameras, had always been taught to sniff out hidden agendas. He just never thought he'd have to look for one inside his own home. But what he found, it wasn't just one secret. It was a network of red flags. Coordinated, deliberate, and undeniably damning. A burner phone, private emails with legal jargon, documents discussing brand separation, and one chilling file name, Plan B. You don't create a file called Plan B unless you've already decided Plan A is about to fail. But here's the twist. Harry didn't explode. He didn't confront Meghan in a shouting match or a dramatic showdown. He did what no one expected. He went quiet. He started listening, watching, taking notes. And then he made the call that would change everything. His lawyers. Yes, Prince Harry, the man who famously refused to sign prenups when they married, was now opening divorce proceedings in silence. Quietly, deliberately, like a soldier planning his final retreat. And yet, this wasn't about money. This wasn't about image. This was about something else. Something far more personal. Something Meghan never thought he'd find out. Because just hours before he made the call, Harry discovered the one thing that tipped him over the edge. And what was it? A voicemail. Simple, innocent on the surface, but loaded with meaning. A voice from Meghan's past. A man. A deal. And a conversation that proved beyond all doubt, that she had never truly been on his side. Now, you're probably wondering, why didn't this explode in the press immediately? Why haven't headlines screamed, "Royal divorce imminent"? Well, here's the truth the tabloids don't want you to know. The royal machine is still trying to contain this. Behind palace doors, meetings have already taken place. Royal advisors have been deployed. Non-disclosure agreements are being tightened. The media is being fed counter-narratives. Because this isn't just about Harry and Meghan anymore. It's about two children, two empires, two competing truths, and a monarchy that cannot afford another scandal. But here's what no PR team can spin. Harry's face. In recent photos, the shift is unmistakable. Gone is the romantic glow, the cheeky smile, the peace he once said he found with Meghan. Now, there's a heaviness, a weight. And if you zoom in, like we did, you'll notice something else. He's not wearing his wedding ring. Coincidence? Or subtle confirmation that the marriage, at least emotionally, is already over? So let's recap what we know. Prince Harry has been betrayed. Not by the press, not by the palace, but by the woman he gave up everything for. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, is now facing the most serious fracture in her carefully curated public image. Not just because of what she did, but because this time, Harry isn't protecting her anymore. He's done. The fairy tale is finished. And now the gloves are coming off. But before you assume this is just another messy Hollywood divorce, think again. Because what Harry found next, what made him cancel his upcoming trip, stop speaking to Meghan entirely, and move to a separate estate, was a discovery so shocking, so deeply personal. He reportedly told a friend, "She's no longer my wife. Not in my heart. Not anymore." That friend leaked it. And that's how we're here today. This is not just about scandal. This is about power. And as this saga unravels over the next hour, you're going to learn what exactly Meghan was hiding. Hint, it involves more than just emails. Why royal insiders warned Harry years ago, and he ignored them. What Charles said that left Harry speechless. And why Meghan may have just played her final card and lost. So buckle in, because the next chapter will blow the crown off everything you thought you knew. And what Harry does next will change the monarchy forever. What does it feel like to sleep next to someone you no longer trust? Not just suspect, not dislike, distrust. To feel the weight of betrayal pressing against your chest at 3 a.m., while the woman lying inches from you scrolls through her phone, her screen tilted just far enough that you can't see? That's the question Prince Harry couldn't escape. Because before the divorce lawyers, before the screaming tabloids, before the royal family issued coded statements disguised as silence, there was quiet. A cold, clinical, unbearable quiet. It had started subtly. A missing smile. An empty bed. An "I love you" that felt just a little too delayed, like it had to pass through a filter first before being spoken aloud. And then it grew louder, not through words, but through absence. The kind of emotional distance that turns shared space into psychological exile. Harry had spent a lifetime being watched. Paparazzi, public, press. But somehow, he had never felt more invisible than he did that week. He moved through the Montecito mansion like a ghost. The chef prepared meals no one ate. The household staff cleaned rooms no one entered. And Meghan? She was always on a call. Always somewhere else. And when she was there, she wasn't really there. Let's rewind to one specific morning. A Thursday. Bright skies, fresh orange juice, and a familiar chill that no thermostat could fix. Harry came down alone. Again, he looked at the empty seat across from him. The one Meghan usually occupied for their together time, coffee mugs in hand, pretending to still be the couple the world fell in love with. He sipped in silence. No good morning. No kiss on the cheek. Just the faint sound of Meghan's voice upstairs, laughing. But not his laugh. Not the way she used to laugh with him, full and wild and reckless. This one was curated, performed, pitch perfect. And then came the name. Not loud, not clear, but enough. A male name. Foreign, familiar, dangerous. Not a friend, not family, someone else. Do you remember that moment when your stomach drops? That primal instinct that something is wrong, and no amount of logic can stop your body from reacting? That's what happened to Harry. He didn't barge in. He didn't shout. He just sat very, very still. And that's when it began, the silence before the storm. You see, the most powerful moments in a relationship don't come from fireworks or arguments. They come from silence. That space between what's said and what's meant. And Harry had become an expert in that space. He watched, observed, studied. The way Meghan's smile would vanish the moment she turned away from the cameras. The way she no longer touched him unless there were photographers. The way her phone was now face down. Always, no exceptions. And when he asked simple questions, who was that on the call? Her answers came fast. Too fast. Like she'd rehearsed them in advance. Oh, just someone from branding. Or, Netflix team. You know how demanding they are. He nodded, smiled. But inside, something was unraveling. That night, Harry didn't sleep. He lay in bed while Meghan pretended to read. He could feel her heartbeat, calm. Too calm. Meanwhile, his thudded like war drums. He stared at the ceiling and remembered every promise. Every vow. Every time he told his brother, "You don't understand her like I do." Every time he defended Meghan in the press. Every time he chose her over everything else. And now? Now she was choosing something else too. But what? Here's where it gets eerie. The next morning, Meghan was gone. Not emotionally, physically. No goodbye, no note. Just a vague text. Gone to LA meetings. Back late. Don't wait. Harry stared at the message for a long time. Not because of what it said, but because of what it didn't say. No heart emoji. No kiss. No love you. Just data. Cold, sterile data. Like she was talking to her driver, not her husband. And for the first time in years, Harry asked himself, what if I'm just an accessory now? That's when things took a darker turn. The silence got louder. The staff, once cheerful and energetic, started muttering behind closed doors. They noticed it too. The icy hallway exchanges. The canceled dinners. The empty nursery. And then there was the day the security team received a quiet directive. Do not follow Meghan unless specifically instructed. That may not sound alarming to you, but in royal circles, that's DEFCON 1. Because it means someone is operating off script, going rogue. And Harry? He hadn't approved that directive, which meant someone else had. Do you see where this is going? Harry was no longer the main character in his own life. He was a shadow, a footnote, a prince-turned-accessory in a marriage built on optics. But he wasn't angry yet. Not yet. He was watching. And then, 3 days later, Meghan came back. Luggage in hand. Sunglasses on. Perfect smile. No explanation. Just walked in like nothing had happened. Kissed the kids. Poured wine. And asked, "Did you feed the dogs?" No hug. No warmth. Just another curated question to maintain the illusion of domestic life. Harry didn't answer. He just nodded. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. Because while Meghan had been in LA, he had opened her laptop. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's invasive. Wrong. A betrayal. And you're right. It is a betrayal. But in Harry's mind, betrayal had already occurred. And he needed answers. Fast. So he opened the laptop. Typed in her password. One he knew. One she'd never changed. And there it was. Dozens of files. New contacts. Exported phone logs. And one folder called archive_. He hovered over it. Heart racing. Clicked. And what he found inside. Well, that's where things get messy. Because this wasn't just about work. This was personal. Deliberate. Explosive. But that's not even the worst part. Because just as he was scrolling, stunned, confused, heartbroken, the door opened. Meghan. Back early. Quiet. Watching. Harry didn't look up. He just said, without turning around, "Who's Sam?" There was a pause. And in that pause, everything changed. The pause was too long. Too loaded. Too filled with calculations. And finally, she answered, "He's just an old friend." But Harry already knew. He'd already read the emails. Seen the plans. He just needed to hear her say it. But she wouldn't. She didn't confess. She pivoted. "You had no right to go through my things." Oh, the classic move. Turn the betrayed into the betrayer. Flip the script. Gaslight. Distract. Deny. But Harry was done playing palace politics. He closed the laptop. Stood up. Looked her dead in the eye. And said, "You're right. I didn't have the right." Then he walked past her. Down the hall. Into the study. And picked up the phone. He didn't call a friend. He didn't call his therapist. He didn't even call Charles. He called his lawyer. Because when the silence becomes louder than the lies, you don't argue anymore. You act. And that's what Harry was finally doing. Acting. Not reacting. Not spinning. Not performing. Just deciding. But what came next, no one expected. Because when that phone call ended, when Harry hung up, he received a message from someone unexpected. Someone who claimed to know everything. And what they said, what they revealed, would rip this entire story wide open. What if the person you trusted most had a secret life, and you discovered it through a single email? Not an affair, not a confession, something far more dangerous. A plan, a betrayal that had been written, drafted, and organized. Harry didn't want to believe it. But once he opened that folder, there was no going back. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't gossip. It was right there, in her sent items. And it had a date, a timestamp, a destination, and a subject line that felt like a dagger. Phase 2. Execution strategy. Let's back up. The moment Harry walked into the study and shut the door behind him, something shifted inside him. Not rage, not sorrow, resolve. He had spent years trying to protect Meghan from the world, shielding her from press scrutiny, breaking ties with his own family to defend her. But now, he needed to protect himself, and more importantly, his children, because what he had found in her laptop wasn't just a few shady emails. It was a blueprint, a timeline, a strategy for disentanglement. It read like a marketing campaign. Cold, corporate, brutal, and that's what made it so terrifying. Harry wasn't reading emotional outbursts or love letters to another man. No, that might have been easier. What he read was worse. He was reading calculated exit plans, negotiated brand splits, financial forecasts for independent ventures, and discussions with PR consultants titled Narrative Shift in the Event of Family Separation. The phrase family separation hit like a punch in the ribs. Not divorce, not breakup, separation, like a product being discontinued. He wasn't a husband in those documents. He was a liability, a phase to be completed, a chapter to be closed for good. And that's when he saw it. The name, Sam J. It wasn't just in one email. It appeared 17 times. Across drafts, forwards, media plans. Sometimes in BCC. Sometimes marked confidential. And always in the same context. Strategy, rollout, monetization. Who was Sam J? A producer? An agent? A fixer? No, this was different. There were references to phone calls, meetings off-site, mentions of the phase being 90% greenlit, mentions of testing public sentiment with dummy leaks. Dummy leaks? Was Meghan testing narratives? Leaking fake stories to see how the press would respond before she made her next move? If you're thinking that sounds like political warfare, you're not far off. Because this wasn't just a breakup. This was a campaign. And then Harry saw the email that broke him. To sam.j@nooneeditmedia.com. From meghan@strategy.com. Subject, post-age transition. Let's proceed with the next steps. I want this done quietly. Soft launch first, followed by the shift. Once assets are in place, we move. Timing will depend on how Harry reacts. But the narrative has to remain sympathetic. This is about protecting my peace. We'll use the kids sparingly. I don't want to overplay that card just yet. No sign-off. No sentiment. Just strategy. Harry's hands were shaking. He read it again. And again. Once assets are in place. Soft launch. Use the kids sparingly. This wasn't a love letter. This was an execution order. And that's when it clicked. Everything. The sudden solo trips to LA. The staged pap walks with candid smiles. The mysterious new production team working in the guest house. The complete emotional detachment. She wasn't distant because she was hurt. She was distant because she was done. She had already made her move. He just hadn't caught up. Until now. And then his phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Check your DMs. I sent you everything. A friend. At first, he thought it was a prank. Then he opened Instagram. There it was. A burner account. No followers. No posts. But one DM. And inside that DM, screenshots. Dozens. Emails. Conversations. Even a photo. A photo that sent ice through his veins. It was Meghan. In LA. At a cafe. Sitting across from a man in sunglasses. Leaning in. Laughing. Holding hands. Not like friends. Not like colleagues. Like lovers. And that man. Harry recognized him. Sam J. Not an agent. Not a fixer. Her ex. Not Trevor. Someone else. From her pre-royal life. Someone no one even knew existed. Until now. Harry dropped the phone. Stared at the floor. Everything began spinning. This wasn't just betrayal. It was long-term betrayal. Premeditated. Was this man the reason Meghan never really seemed invested in their marriage? Was this her real plan A? Was Harry the stepping stone all along? And the worst thought of all, did she ever really love me? He sat in silence, eyes burning, and then he remembered something. One night, years ago, just after Archie was born, they were sitting outside, sipping wine. Meghan had looked at the stars and said, "One day, we'll have our own empire." He had smiled. He thought she meant a family. But now he realized she might have meant something very different. An actual empire. Of her own. Back in the present, Harry reopened the email. Reread it. Once assets are in place. He knew what that meant. The podcast. The documentaries. The trademarks. The children. His voice cracked. Because he saw it all now. He had walked away from the crown, only to crown someone else. And now she was planning to rule alone. There was only one thing left to do. He called the number again. His lawyer. But this time, he didn't ask for advice. He gave instructions. "I want the papers drawn. I want custody protected. And I want this to go nuclear only if she makes it." The voice on the other end paused, then said, "There's something you need to know, sir." Harry blinked. "What?" "We've been contacted. Someone else has evidence. They want to meet. They said, you need to hear what Meghan's planning next. And it's worse than anything you've seen." Harry stood up slowly. His voice, cold. "Who is it?" "They wouldn't say. But they're sending it. Tonight." Harry's heart thundered. What could be worse than what he'd already seen? How deep did this go? He walked to the nursery, watched Archie sleeping, Lilibet babbling softly in her crib. And he made a silent vow. Whatever came next, they would not be part of her strategy. He wouldn't let them become pawns. Not again. Hours later, the doorbell rang. A courier. No words. Just a sealed package. Harry took it. Sat down. Opened it slowly. Inside, a hard drive. And a single envelope. He opened the envelope first. Read the note. And as his eyes scanned the words, his face turned pale. Because it wasn't just from anyone. It was from someone inside Meghan's circle. A name he recognized. A name he never expected. And what they confessed, what they revealed Meghan was planning next, was something that could destroy the royal family permanently. But what was it? And why now? What if you discovered your partner was preparing for life without you, before your marriage even began? That's exactly what Prince Harry realized the moment he opened the hard drive. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't gossip. This was evidence. Dates, signatures, financial forecasts, branding decks, and contracts. Not just any contracts, but ones that dated back before the royal wedding, before Frogmore, before Archie, before Harry ever said, "I do." And the names on those contracts? Let's just say, Meghan wasn't the only one signing. Harry stared at the screen, the cursor blinking at the top of the document. The first file was labeled, Brand Autonomy, Phase 0, 2017. His breath caught. 2017. That was the year they went public. The year they walked hand in hand at the Invictus Games. The year he thought, finally, he had found someone who loved him for him, not for his title. But here, in black and white, was a 31-page branding document, outlining Meghan Markle's transition from actress to independent public persona. Independent. There it was again, a word that didn't belong in a partnership. The document began clinically. The Meghan Markle Global Strategy Initiative, MGSI, outlines a 3 to 5 year plan for cultivating personal brand equity, independent of spousal narrative or affiliation with royal protocol. Harry read it 3 times. Independent of spousal narrative. What did that mean? That she never intended to be part of Harry and Meghan? That she always planned to be just Meghan? The Meghan brand. The Meghan identity. The Meghan story. And Harry? He was just a chapter. Not the book. Let's be clear. This wasn't illegal. It wasn't even unusual for ambitious celebrities. But for Harry, it felt like betrayal. Because while he had believed in us, she had been planning for me. And then came the next file. Project Orpheus, 2018 launch document. Harry opened it with trembling hands. It was a contract, a licensing agreement, between Meghan's LLC and a Beverly Hills agency. The purpose? Development of multimedia storytelling assets to position Ms. Markle as a thought leader and philanthropic icon, detached from monarchical identity. Detached from monarchical identity? Again, there it was. A plan to leverage the drama of the monarchy, only to separate from it once the spotlight reached critical mass. The contract was signed, digitally. The date? 1 week after their wedding. 1 week. While Harry had been basking in the glow of newlywed bliss, Meghan had been negotiating her exit strategy. He scrolled further. Projections. Milestones. Benchmarks. By year 2, brand Meghan should operate independently of Sussex royal initiatives. Year 3 goal. Global recognition as humanitarian thought leader. Contingency Clause 4B. Termination of spousal alignment. Narrative control shifts to client. Termination of spousal alignment. He couldn't believe the words. Who writes that about their marriage? Not, if we grow apart. Not, if things don't work out. No, it was clinical, corporate, cold. And that's when Harry's fury ignited. He slammed the laptop shut, paced the room, thought back to all the fights, small and big, over joint ventures. The podcast deal he felt uneasy about. The Netflix docuseries Meghan pushed so hard to control. The branding meetings where his input was welcomed, but never used. Now it made sense. His name gave access, but his voice was irrelevant. She didn't want a co-founder. She wanted a launchpad. He sat back down, reopened the next file. Digital brand pivot, emergency plan, Drake memo. At first, he thought it was about the rapper. It wasn't. Drake stood for distill narrative, reclaim sympathy, amplify support base, keep visuals soft, execute emotional pivot. It was a crisis strategy for after a split. A whole document designed to recast Meghan as misunderstood, emotionally harmed, and liberated. It included staged press leaks, interview talking points, social media campaigns, and then this chilling phrase: partner becomes the antagonist. Empathize through motherhood lens. Partner becomes the antagonist. Empathize through motherhood. She was planning to weaponize the children. Now Harry was furious, but he was also scared. Because if this was the plan from the beginning, had any of it been real? The hand-holding, the confessions, the tears on Oprah, was it all part of the brand arc? Was he just phase 1? Suddenly, another memory hit him like a freight train. A fight they'd had in 2020. He had questioned one of her business meetings. She got icy, dismissive. You wouldn't understand, she'd snapped. This is bigger than just us. He'd thought it was stress. He'd thought she meant the media. But now he realized she meant it literally. It wasn't about them. It was about her. The brand. The next chapter. And he wasn't in it. Then he saw the final file. Letter of intent, now United Studios. He clicked. And there it was. A signed agreement. March 2021. Partner, Sam J. Purpose? Development of a solo documentary based on Meghan's experience as a mother, survivor, and disruptor of outdated institutions. Projected launch, 2024. Tagline: her truth, her voice, her way. Harry read the project name. Exhale. And that's when he lost it. Because that's what she was doing now, wasn't she? Exhaling. Like she'd been holding her breath the entire time they were married. Like being with him had been a burden. He stood up again, ran his fingers through his hair, and then he heard the door creak. Meghan, in the hallway, calling his name. Voice sweet, like nothing was wrong. But Harry didn't answer. He walked to the other side of the room, closed the door, and locked it. He turned back to the screen. The documents, the emails, the signatures, and suddenly, a pattern emerged. Every major family moment, Archie's birth, Lilibet's christening, their Oprah interview, had a corresponding contract, a rollout plan, a brand launch, a strategic partnership. His family life had been monetized in real time. His pain, his name, his trauma, all turned into bullet points on PowerPoint decks. He was never the husband. He was the narrative arc, a stepping stone to global recognition. And now, he was a loose end. The final page of the contract listed termination timeline. Q1, 2025. That's now. Now. This wasn't theoretical. It was happening. The separation wasn't coming. It was already underway. He was the last to know. Until now. Harry took a deep breath, picked up the hard drive, stared at it, then placed it in the safe. Because whatever happened next, this evidence would be critical. For the lawyers, for the children, for the truth. But he wasn't done yet. Because there was one more name on that contract. A familiar one. A shocking one. A royal one. Someone he never expected to be involved. And what that person did next would tear the royal family apart from the inside. What do you say to your father when your entire life is falling apart? And he might have known it was coming. That was the question Prince Harry wrestled with the moment he dialed the number. Not his assistant, not his therapist, not his brother. King Charles, the man he had once called cold, the monarch he had accused of indifference, the father he had run from. Now, he was the only person Harry could think to call. But what Charles said in that call, what he revealed, would send Harry spiraling into a whole new kind of betrayal. Because this time, it wasn't just Meghan who had seen the writing on the wall. The phone rang once, twice, then a click. A voice answered. Familiar, guarded. Clarence House, said the aide. Harry didn't waste time. Put him on. He'll want to take this. The pause was brief, but not brief enough. It was the kind of pause that said, he's hesitating. And sure enough, the aide returned a moment later with the most royal of understatements. His Majesty is available for a brief word. Not happy to speak. Not how are you. Not even Dad. Just, brief word. The call connected. Static. Then Harry. Flat. Measured. Distant. Harry's throat tightened. Pa. Another pause. Then Charles's voice again. Is this about her? It hit Harry like a blow. Charles knew. Of course he did. You don't become monarch without having people everywhere. Spies in the press. Whispers in the corridors. MI5, light networks surrounding every corner of royal scandal. Harry exhaled. So you've heard. I've heard enough. Harry sank into the chair, his voice cracking. She planned it all. From the beginning. Charles didn't respond. So Harry pressed. She wrote me out, Pa. Like I was a placeholder. Every moment we had, every family milestone, it was all mapped. For her brand. Her exit. Still silence. Then finally, Charles said something Harry wasn't ready for. We warned you. 3 words. Simple. Icy. Devastating. Harry's voice dropped. You knew she was planning this? Charles corrected him. No. We feared it. There's a difference. Then why didn't you tell me? You wouldn't have listened. That was the most painful part. Because deep down, Harry knew he was right. Flashback to 2018. A quiet dinner at Balmoral. Just Harry and his father. Charles sipping scotch, Harry poking at his lamp. Charles had leaned in, measured, careful. She's ambitious, Harry. Harry had scoffed. So was Mom. Charles shook his head. No. Your mother wanted love. Meghan wants influence. Harry had exploded then. Stormed out. Told Meghan later, who cried on cue. Now he wondered. Was that also rehearsed? Back in the present, Harry whispered. You saw this coming, and you let me walk right into it. Charles replied. I let you choose. You insisted she was different. Harry rubbed his eyes. She manipulated everything. And now she's prepping to take the kids. Twist the narrative. Paint herself as the victim again. Charles cut in, sharply. She will do that. You understand? She has the machinery. The networks. The advisors. She's not a fool, Harry. But neither are you. The conversation hung there. Heavy. Then Harry dropped the real bomb. There's someone else involved. Charles didn't speak. Her team has help. Someone in the family. Someone feeding her strategy. Their name's on the contract. That got his attention. What name? Harry opened the file again. Scrolled down. Read it out. And Charles went quiet. Dead quiet. Then finally said. And. Harry nearly dropped the phone. Aunt Anne. Yes. What the hell is she doing signing Meghan's business contracts? Charles sighed audibly. She wasn't helping Meghan. Not directly. Anne's firm, one of her advisors, was retained by Meghan years ago, before the wedding. She didn't know who the client was. Not until it was too late. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to believe that I didn't know. That part felt true, but it still made Harry sick. She helped her structure the exit. Charles agreed. Unwittingly, yes. And when she found out, she came to me. I told her to sever ties immediately. Harry slammed the table. But you didn't tell me. Because you were in love. And you would have blamed us, not her. He wasn't wrong. At the time, Harry had burned every bridge to defend Meghan. And now, standing on the ashes, he had no one left but the very people he abandoned. The irony was bitter. And yet, there was something else. A question lingering. He asked it slowly, almost afraid of the answer. Pa, did Mum ever go through something like this? Another pause. Then Charles spoke. Not as a king, not even as a father, but as a man. Haunted. Yes. And no. Your mother loved me. But she also feared me. Feared the institution. Meghan never feared you. She only feared irrelevance. That sentence landed like a meteor. Meghan didn't fear him. She feared irrelevance. And now that she had her audience, her empire, her own name, Harry was obsolete. I want to fight this, Harry said, voice cracking. Charles replied immediately. Then you need to do it right. Not emotionally. Strategically. Like she is. I've got documents. Proof. Emails. Contracts. Charles sounded almost impressed. Then use them. But quietly. She wants a spectacle. Don't give it to her. Harry felt the fire building in his chest. She'll come for the kids. She's already planning stories. She's going to spin this like I abandoned her. Like I couldn't handle her strength. Then remind the world who you are. And for once, Charles didn't sound like a monarch. He sounded like a father. Harry blinked back the sting in his eyes. I should have listened. Charles sighed again. Perhaps. But then again, some men only learn through pain. Is that how you learned? A long silence. Then Charles said, I'm still learning. And with that, the call ended. No goodbye. Just the weight of unfinished healing. Harry sat there, phone still in hand. The pieces were falling into place. Charles had known something was wrong, and had accidentally been part of the architecture. Meghan had executed it all perfectly. But there was still one piece missing. One person who hadn't said a word, hadn't called, hadn't checked in, hadn't even reacted to the swirling drama in the tabloids. William. And the silence was starting to feel intentional. But when Harry reached out next, he'd discover that his brother had been watching everything. And what he had prepared would change the balance of power completely. What happens when the person you need most simply vanishes? Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Literally disappears. That's exactly what Meghan Markle did. While Harry reeled from contracts, betrayals, and a phone call with his father that reopened old wounds, Meghan was nowhere to be found. No goodbye, no explanation, no trace. She didn't slam a door. She didn't yell. She just walked out of their Montecito estate and evaporated, like smoke from a candle snuffed in the night. But where she went, and who she went with, would take Harry's world from broken to obliterated. The morning after the call with Charles was unnervingly quiet. The house staff tiptoed through the halls. Nannies kept the children out of sight. The cook prepared breakfast that no one touched. Harry emerged from the study just after dawn. Hair disheveled. Eyes hollow. Laptop tucked under his arm like a piece of evidence in a trial that hadn't started yet. He walked into the kitchen. Where is she? He asked, voice low. The maid didn't respond right away. Just looked over Harry's shoulder at the entryway. She left, sir. When? Around 4. Maybe earlier. Packed a few bags. Said she was going to West Hollywood. Didn't say for how long. Harry blinked. No note. No message. Just gone. He checked his phone. Nothing. He opened their shared calendar, still linked to her devices. A blank day. No meetings. No charity event. No podcast taping. Just white space. The kind of day most couples would spend relaxing, reconnecting. But Meghan? She vanished into it, like she'd been waiting for a moment of silence to escape. Harry paced the garden, his mind racing. He remembered the last time they'd gone to West Hollywood together, months ago. A meeting with an executive, some potential investor for her empowerment through storytelling project. He hadn't been invited inside. He'd waited in the car for an hour, scrolling aimlessly through news articles and pretending it didn't sting. Now, she was back there. But with whom? And for what? He texted her. Where are you? No response. He called. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. Blocked? Or intentionally ignored? By noon, the story started to break. First, a blurry TMZ photo. Then page 6. Then the Daily Mail. The headline was subtle at first. Meghan Markle spotted solo in LA after rumors of Sussex split. But the image? It spoke volumes. Meghan. Emerald green wrap dress. Designer shades. No ring. Holding a coffee. Smiling. Not just smiling. Glowing. And she wasn't alone. Walking beside her was a man. Tall. Athletic. Well-dressed. Face partially hidden under a baseball cap. But not hidden well enough. Sam J. The same man from the emails. The same man from the cafe photo. The same man Harry believed was part of her exit plan. Now, they were walking together, in public, like it was just another sunny California afternoon. Like Harry didn't exist. Twitter erupted. Is this Meghan's new man? Was this happening all along? PR stunt or soft launch of the next chapter? Harry didn't even flinch, because deep down, this confirmed what he already knew. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a rebound. This was deliberate. Meghan had staged this. The outfit, the location, the coffee cup with the logo facing the camera, the perfectly casual positioning of Sam beside her. This was a rollout. And Harry? He was the product being discontinued. But the press didn't stop there. By 4 p.m., a leaked quote surfaced, allegedly from a source close to Meghan. It read, "Meghan's been navigating a difficult emotional landscape for a long time. She's choosing peace. For herself. For her children. For her truth." Harry slammed his phone down. Her truth. That phrase again. What about his? What about the truth she had hidden? The documents. The contracts. The narrative manipulation. She wasn't navigating pain. She was directing a story. And now the plot had entered a new act. The solo heroine. By nightfall, the Montecito estate felt like a museum. Cold. Quiet. Full of things that no longer meant anything. Harry stood in the nursery, watching Archie sleep. Lilibet stirred in her crib, murmuring softly. They were the only real things left. Everything else. Scripts. Storylines. Optics. He texted Meghan again. "I saw the photos." No reply. He waited. Minutes turned into hours. And finally, a message. "I needed space. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Harder? Harry nearly laughed aloud. She made him look like the villain. Again. He stepped outside, wind brushing against his face. And that's when he saw it. A black SUV idling at the end of the driveway. Engine humming. Lights dim. Someone watching? He walked toward it. The vehicle pulled away slowly. No plates. No windows rolled down. Gone. It wasn't paparazzi. It wasn't press. This was something else. Security? Private surveillance? Hers? Had Meghan hired people to monitor the house, to watch him? Was he being shadowed in his own home? Back inside, Harry went to the guest house, a place Meghan used for work meetings. It had always been off limits. She'd claimed it was where the magic happened. He never questioned it. Now, he demanded answers. He used a backup key, walked inside, and what he saw confirmed everything. Stacks of media kits, mood boards labeled Empowerment 2025, scripts, interview prep notes, and in the corner, a rack of outfits. Outfits that matched the ones she wore in leaked photos over the last 6 months. Nothing was spontaneous. Nothing was real. This wasn't a life. It was a campaign. On the desk sat a whiteboard, written in pink marker. Phase 3, Autonomy Rollout, Key Messages. Beneath it, bullet points. My peace matters. Protecting my children. Surviving silence. Every woman deserves to walk away. The same phrases the tabloids were quoting now. Same words. Same spin. Scripted. Harry took photos of everything. Then he saw the last note. End of February, soft launch event. LA rooftop TBD. Interview opportunity. Oprah/Michelle O/Shonda R. Final statement. Freedom isn't selfish. Final statement. Was that how she planned to tell the world they were over? Not in private. Not to his face. But at a launch event? With a guest list and talking points? Was their marriage just the trailer for her next documentary? Harry walked out. Shaken. Tired. Done. But then, his phone buzzed. An anonymous number. Voicemail. He played it. At first, just static. Then a voice. Female. British. Stern. "I know what she's planning next. And you need to see it before it's too late. This isn't just about you anymore, Harry. It's about the monarchy." Then a click. And silence. He stood there, stunned. Who was that? How did they get his number? What did they know? And what was Meghan planning next? The press didn't know. His father didn't know. But someone did. And Harry had just gotten his first warning. Because Meghan hadn't just disappeared. She was preparing for her biggest appearance yet. What if the man your wife claimed to have left in the past never actually left? Prince Harry had faced betrayal before. From tabloids. From his family. Even, he believed, from the institution that raised him. But nothing could prepare him for what he was about to uncover next. Because while he was chasing the shadows of brand contracts and quiet disappearances, one figure from Meghan's past had quietly reemerged. Not just into her life, but into her strategy. Trevor Engelson. Meghan's first husband. The man she left with barely a goodbye. A ghost until now. And what Harry discovered about their current connection would take the word betrayal and redefine it. It started with a whisper, a discreet message from a royal staffer still loyal to Harry. A name, a sighting, Trevor Engelson, West Hollywood, spotted entering a private residence. Same location Meghan was last seen 2 nights ago. Harry stared at the message. He didn't move, didn't breathe. It couldn't be. Trevor? The Hollywood producer Meghan had divorced a decade ago? The one she reportedly sent her wedding ring back to via FedEx? Why him? Why now? He dug deeper. First, he texted the one person who would know, his old royal security advisor, whom he had kept off the record since stepping back from royal duties. Can you verify this? Was Trevor really with her? The reply came quickly. Yes. Visual confirmation. Same building. 37 minutes apart. Harry read it twice. Then again. 37 minutes apart. Staggered entrance. Like they were avoiding being seen together. But the paparazzi hadn't been fooled. There were photos. And what those images showed was damning. Meghan, dressed down, no ring, wearing sunglasses at night, walking out of the residence first. Then, 40 minutes later, Trevor. Same door, same building, same time window. The headlines hadn't picked up on it yet, but it was only a matter of time. Harry dug up everything he could about Trevor. They hadn't spoken, of course. Trevor had kept a low profile for years. Meghan's relationship with him had been scrubbed clean by Palace PR during their engagement. No interviews, no comments, just silence. But now, the silence was broken, and Harry was beginning to see a pattern. Trevor had just signed a new production deal. Small studio, big ambitions. Guess the name of the company backing him? Now United Studios. The same studio Meghan had partnered with through her exit contracts. The same studio that was producing Exhale, her truth-telling solo documentary. The one scheduled for release after the divorce. The credits hadn't been finalized, but Harry found the leaked draft of the executive summary. Trevor Engelson, executive producer. The betrayal hit like a freight train. Was this a joke? Was she seriously producing her liberation story with her ex-husband? Was this revenge? Irony? Or worse? Always the plan. It made no sense. Until Harry looked deeper and found something else. Emails. Forwarded through an anonymous source. One from Meghan to Trevor. Subject line. Rebuilding bridges. Let's show people that we've grown. That we're evolved. That we can collaborate as professionals. You have the platform. I have the story. It's time we own the narrative. Together. No apology. No remorse. Just business. Calculated. Controlled. Trevor had said yes. Because of course he did. What producer wouldn't want a front-row seat to the post-royal meltdown of the decade? Harry read it over and over. Rebuilding bridges. That wasn't reconciliation. That was public relations. And now it made sense why Meghan was staging her disappearing act. She wasn't hiding. She was rebranding. Not as a woman fleeing a toxic marriage, but as a woman rising from the ashes. And who better to co-sign her narrative than the man she supposedly left in pieces a decade ago? It was a full-circle story. Engineered to go viral. Harry slammed the laptop shut, but his mind kept racing. He thought back to the time Meghan had told him about Trevor. I outgrew him, she'd said. He couldn't handle my ambition. Harry had believed it. He had nodded, reassured her that she deserved more. But now he wondered if Trevor had just been version 1. And Harry? Version 2. Different accent. Different title. Same arc. This revelation sent Harry spiraling into memories. Moments he had shrugged off, like the time he found an old wedding photo of Meghan and Trevor hidden in a drawer. She'd said it was an old press clipping someone sent her. Or the day Meghan's assistant had accidentally sent a meeting reminder meant for her eyes only. Call with T, confirm pitch deck updates. She'd brushed it off as a template error. But it wasn't. It was a breadcrumb. And Harry had ignored every single one. Now, he began to see the full picture. Trevor wasn't just a footnote. He was part of the next act. And Meghan? She was rewriting her history, again. But this time, not to bury Trevor. To resurrect him. Why? Because it made her look healed. Wise. Look, the narrative would say. She's so evolved. She even works with her ex-husband. It was the perfect PR play. Empowerment disguised as reconciliation. Redemption disguised as ratings. And Harry? He was just the shadowy royal mistake in the middle. The one who didn't get it. But the damage wasn't done yet. Because 2 days later, Harry got a message. From Trevor himself. An email. Short. Awkward. but unmistakably smug. Didn't expect to cross paths like this. No hard feelings. It's business. Hope you're well. T. Harry stared at it. No hard feelings? No hard feelings. He thought about replying. Saying what? Thanks for producing my wife's post-divorce propaganda film. But he didn't. He archived it and called his lawyer. The call was brief, but to the point. Update the petition. Include the documentary. Include Trevor. I want everything on record. Understood, said the lawyer. But be prepared. She's building momentum. Quiet now, but it won't stay quiet. I don't care, Harry said. Let her launch it. Pause. Are you sure? Yes, Harry said. Because I've got something she doesn't. What's that? The truth. But truth or not, Meghan wasn't slowing down. And the next thing she did? Made everything else feel like child's play. A public appearance. Not in hiding. Not in secret. But center stage. And who was standing beside her? Trevor. Smiling. Polished. Holding the microphone while Meghan told a packed room of women. Sometimes your past holds the key to your future. And sometimes what looked like an ending was actually the beginning. The crowd cheered. Social media exploded. And Harry? He watched in silence. Because while she claimed to be telling her truth, he was still holding on to theirs. And what he did next would determine if he could reclaim it. When does a marriage stop being a partnership and start becoming a legal battle? For Prince Harry, the answer came the moment he saw Meghan Markle standing beside Trevor Engelson on that rooftop stage in LA, smiling like she had just rewritten history. Because that wasn't just a photo op. It wasn't just a publicity stunt. It was a declaration. A declaration that their story, his story, was over. Publicly, proudly, irrevocably. So Harry did what any man would do when pushed to the brink. He picked up the phone, took a breath, and dialed the number he never thought he'd use. His divorce lawyer. And what came next wasn't just legal strategy. It was war. It started quietly. A late-night call to his London-based solicitor, a man Harry had worked with during the most painful days of his royal separation. A man who understood discretion, precision, and urgency. The phone rang. The solicitor answered on the first buzz. He already knew. Harry, he said, his voice low and clipped. I've seen the photos. Harry didn't need to explain. He just said, we're doing this. The lawyer didn't flinch. I'll begin drafting the petition. Do you want full custody? Harry hesitated. The idea of a custody battle made him sick. Archie, Lilibet, two innocents caught in the crossfire of media warfare and brand warfare. But then he thought of the emails. The branding strategy that included using the children as part of the emotional pivot. Use the kids sparingly, Meghan had written. Like they were props. Harry's jaw clenched. I want joint legal custody, he said. But I want the final say on media exposure. No more press. No more filming. They're off limits. And if she contests? Harry didn't miss a beat. Then we go to court. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Conference calls. Document scans. Asset evaluations. Though he had long given up the Crown's finances, Harry still held sizable private inheritance, investments, and stakes in Archwell's remnants. But that wasn't what this was about. This wasn't about money. It was about ownership. Of the narrative. Of the truth. Of his name. Because for years, Harry and Meghan had been a brand. A bundled package. A story sold to Netflix, Spotify, the public, the press. But now, he wanted out. No more co-appearances. No more joint ventures. No more being a silent co-star in her solo show. He wanted a clean cut. The lawyer sent over a draft agreement. Harry read every word. Dissolution of marriage. Custody. Division of joint ventures. And then the line that made his stomach turn. Public disclosure management. It was a legal term for who gets to speak first. A clause designed for high-profile breakups. Essentially, who gets to frame the narrative? Who does the Oprah special first? Who gets the Vanity Fair cover? Who posts the Instagram statement? Harry shook his head. We're not doing that, he said. No interviews. No exclusives. Not from me. But she will, the lawyer warned. Then let her. The lawyer paused. You understand she's building her story already. That documentary is already in production. You won't control the first impression. Harry looked out the window, bitter. I'm not interested in impressions. I'm interested in facts. But while Harry was prepping legal paperwork, Meghan was moving faster. Less than 48 hours after her stage appearance with Trevor, Meghan's team leaked a blind item. It hit the gossip blogs like wildfire. A quote from an unnamed insider. He became cold, detached, emotionally unavailable. She tried everything to make it work. But when someone refuses to heal, all you can do is walk away. The story didn't name Harry directly, but everyone knew. And that's when Harry realized. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a character assassination. The lawyer sent him a second document, a reputation protection addendum, designed to stop Meghan from publicly discussing the details of their relationship in future interviews or memoirs. Harry read it carefully, then shook his head. She'll never sign this. Then you'll need leverage. And that's when Harry knew. The time for being silent was over. He opened the safe in his study, pulled out the hard drive. The one with every email, every strategy deck, every breadcrumb she thought he'd never find. He called his legal team. I have evidence, he said. Direct. Irrefutable. Shows intent to separate years ago. Shows manipulation. Brand monetization. Use of our children for public sympathy. There was a pause. Do you want this public? Harry closed his eyes. No. I just want her to know. I'm not bluffing. A courier arrived within hours. Legal documents. Encrypted copies of the evidence. A formal letter of intent. Delivered directly to Meghan's temporary address in LA. And within an hour, his phone buzzed. Blocked number. He picked up. Her voice. Calm. Cold. Controlled. You really want to do this? She said. Harry didn't yell. Didn't beg. Didn't break. He simply replied. I'm not doing anything you haven't already started. There was silence. Then Meghan said, You know this will get ugly. Harry replied, It already is. She paused again. Then, with a hint of smugness, said, Well, then I hope you're ready for what's coming. Click. The call ended. And Harry sat alone, for a long time, staring at the wall, until he finally whispered, So do I. The lawyer called again later that night. She's retained counsel, he said. High-powered firm. Reputation bulldogs. Their opening strategy is to delay. Of course, Harry muttered. She'll try to outlast you. Drag it out. Force you to either settle quietly or come out looking cruel. Harry clenched his fists. Then we hit back. The lawyer hesitated. With what? Harry opened his laptop, went into a locked folder, paused, then said, Everything. And yet, even as Harry armed himself legally, he felt something heavy inside him crack. He wasn't a man celebrating his escape. He was a father. And what haunted him most wasn't the contracts or the headlines or even Trevor. It was the thought of Archie, 5 years from now, Googling his parents' names and seeing everything. The staged photos, the screaming headlines, the courtroom drama, the war, and wondering, was any of it ever real? That night, Harry made a quiet decision. He recorded a video, just for his children, not to be released, not to be used in court, just a father speaking to the future, explaining his side, his truth, why he stayed, why he walked away, why he fought back, and why, in the end, he hoped they would understand that sometimes you have to protect peace, even if it means starting a war. But as he closed the camera and sat in silence, his phone buzzed once more. A notification. Meghan's team had filed a countersuit. Not for custody, not for money, for defamation, claiming Harry had leaked the documents himself, that he had orchestrated a smear campaign, that he was the manipulator. And in a chilling twist, they had a witness, someone close, someone royal. And when Harry saw who it was, his entire body went cold, because the name on the filing was Prince William. What if the person you trusted most had a secret life, and you discovered it through a single email? Not an affair, not a confession, something far more dangerous. A plan, a betrayal that had been written, drafted, and organized. Harry didn't want to believe it. But once he opened that folder, there was no going back. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't gossip. It was right there, in her sent items. And it had a date, a timestamp, a destination, and a subject line that felt like a dagger. Phase 2. Execution strategy. Let's back up. The moment Harry walked into the study and shut the door behind him, something shifted inside him. Not rage, not sorrow, resolve. He had spent years trying to protect Meghan from the world, shielding her from press scrutiny, breaking ties with his own family to defend her. But now, he needed to protect himself, and more importantly, his children. Because what he had found in her laptop wasn't just a few shady emails. It was a blueprint, a timeline, a a strategy for disentanglement. It read like a marketing campaign. Cold, corporate, brutal. And that's what made it so terrifying. Harry wasn't reading emotional outbursts or love letters to another man. No, that might have been easier. What he read was worse. He was reading calculated exit plans, negotiated brand splits, financial forecasts for independent ventures, and discussions with PR consultants titled Narrative Shift in the Event of Family Separation. The phrase family separation hit like a punch in the ribs. Not divorce, not breakup, separation, like a product being discontinued. He wasn't a husband in those documents. He was a liability, a phase to be completed, a chapter to be closed for good. And that's when he saw it. The name, Sam J. It wasn't just in one email. It appeared 17 times. Across drafts, forwards, media plans. Sometimes in BCC. Sometimes marked confidential. And always in the same context. Strategy, rollout, monetization. Who was Sam J? A producer? An agent? A fixer? No, this was different. There were references to phone calls, meetings off-site, mentions of the phase being 90% greenlit, mentions of testing public sentiment with dummy leaks. Dummy leaks? Was Meghan testing narratives? Leaking fake stories to see how the press would respond before she made her next move? If you're thinking that sounds like political warfare, you're not far off. Because this wasn't just a breakup. This was a campaign. And then Harry saw the email that broke him. To sam.j@nowanedmedia.com. From meghan@strategy.com. Subject, post-age transition. Let's proceed with the next steps. I want this done quietly. Soft launch first, followed by the shift. Once assets are in place, we move. Timing will depend on how Harry reacts. But the narrative has to remain sympathetic. This is about protecting my peace. We'll use the kids sparingly. I don't want to overplay that card just yet. No sign-off. No sentiment. Just strategy. Harry's hands were shaking. He read it again. And again. Once assets are in place. Soft launch. Use the kids sparingly. This wasn't a love letter. This was an execution order. And that's when it clicked. Everything. The sudden solo trips to LA. The staged pap walks with candid smiles. The mysterious new production team working in the guest house. The complete emotional detachment. She wasn't distant because she